Hey guys, so welcome to the third episode of my Epistemology series. So today I'm going to discuss Gettier cases. And Gettier cases are interesting because they're kind of a poke on the traditional or the classical conception of knowledge, which we discussed in the two previous episodes is justified true belief equals knowledge. So I think what the Gettier cases are most poking at is the justification part, but I'll illustrate with a couple of examples because that's always the easiest way to learn. So I'll start off with what's commonly known as the grandfather clock example. So picture a guy, let's just call him John, and he looks at this clock at the exact same point in time every day. And it's 5 o'clock because he wakes up quite early, you know. So John comes downstairs, looks at his grandfather clock. It's 5 o'clock, all good, right? But one morning he comes down. The clock says 5 o'clock, but what John doesn't know is that the clock stopped at exactly 24 hours ago. So he was right, but it was by accident, you know, because the clock is broken. So what's interesting about this example is that it's justified because the clock has been working for how many years, right? It's true because it is 5 o'clock, and of course John believes it. But somehow something feels off, right? Can he truly know that it's 5 o'clock when the clock is broken? Would you call that knowledge? So the Gettier cases proposes something quite interesting about our conception of knowledge. And what most epistemologists take from this is that it's something intuitively wrong with this model, as it doesn't tackle those cases entirely well, you know? Like, it's just intuition, really. This model still holds up to a large extent, but it feels intuitively as something is wrong when you can know something, but it's something wrong with the source, right? Another example of a Gettier case is called, I think it's called the sheep example. So picture you have a shepherd. He goes to a field, and then he sees what he thinks is a sheep, but it's actually just a large, puffy, white dog. And he says, "Is a sheep on the field over there?" And there happens to be a sheep just behind the dog, outside of the shepherd's view. So would that be knowledge? It was justified because he thought he saw a sheep, and it's true because there was a sheep there, and of course he believes it. So this is what's tricky with the Gettier cases, is that it seems like justification isn't enough, or at least you have to really specify what you mean about justification. And we will get to that in later videos, but for now we're just going to stick with this. So this baffled epistemologists to a large extent, so if not JTB equals K, then what? Well, someone proposed, some of the epistemologists proposed that, well, we have to add an X. It's justified true belief plus something. And what is that something? Well, we don't really agree. Like, no epistemologists have really come up with a bulletproof solution, you know? For instance, one of the suggestions was that you can have no false presuppositions about the reliability of the source, in a way. Like, no false presuppositions. So let's apply JTB plus no false presuppositions to the grandfather clock example. Okay, so he thinks that the clock is working, which is his presupposition, and it's false. And by that standard, okay, it's not knowledge, you know? But the problem with this is that how do you define what is relevant or not? Let's say he has a presupposition that this clock is cleaned every week. So let's say it isn't clean every week, but he thinks it is. Does that affect the knowledge? No, he wouldn't. It has to be relevant in some sort of way, right? And that what's relevant or not is a difficult line to put. So that's why we don't have like a JTB plus no FS or something, you know? So epistemologists are still stuck on trying to find that X. But some other people have been suggesting that we just have to scrap the JTB model altogether. It's just broken or not functioning. And some other people suggest that we improve on the definition of some of these, like improve on justification or something along those lines. So Gettier he's still alive actually. He's a pretty modern day philosopher, and he wrote this essay on like 4 pages or something, and then he burst the JTB bubble that had been standing since Plato. So it's quite interesting. I would recommend that you read it if you want to look more into this stuff. But this is a general overview. Gettier cases, challenge JTB. It seems to be knowledge with an imprecise source, or you're justified and it's true and it's belief, but it's somehow still by accident right. So, yeah. See you in the next episode.